Sailesh Rao. He's going to be he is the founder and executive director of Climate Healers, which is a nonprofit dedicated to restoring the Earth's climate. He's got a PhD in electrical engineering from Stanford. Dr. Rao spent over 20 years
pioneering advancements in internet infrastructure before fully transitioning in 2006 to environmental activism. As a human, earth, and animal liberation advocate, heel, author, and grandfather, Dr. Rao is committed to a largely vegan world by 2026, honoring a promise that he made to his granddaughter, Kamaya. Welcome, Dr. Sailesh Rao.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all. We are in a very, it's a very critical situation on the planet. So I want to talk to you now about how do we get to a vegan world within the next 2 years. So this is what I call, this presentation is about the roadmap to a vegan world by 2026. And you see here this difficulty of climbing up to where we need to go, turning from something that was red and square to something that's beautiful and circular, a vegan world by 2026. Now, veganism, we have all come to veganism from multiple angles. Some people come to it from the angle of health. So that's the angle, the health portal that people get to veganism from. And then there is ethical. This is what's happening to the animals. Or spirituality. Some people do it because it elevates their consciousness. And finally, some of us do it for the environment. No matter which portal you come to veganism from, ultimately, you're going to see all 4 aspects of this veganism. So to me, veganism is a journey. It's not a destination. So we're all trying to get to where we understand all 4 aspects of veganism. And when you do it for health or ethics or spirituality, you don't really have the same sense of urgency that I felt when I did it for the environment. I came in through the environmental portal, and I immediately felt like I was dealing with a house on fire. Okay? And when you're dealing with a house on fire, you don't talk about how to color the living room. Or what are we going to have for breakfast? Which, by the way, I forgot to bring the breakfast in. I apologize. Yeah. So you don't talk about what you're going to have for breakfast. What are you going to have for lunch? You don't talk about normal things. You focus on putting out the fire first. Okay? That's what we need to be doing now for the planet. But we have people in the house, some of them have barricaded themselves in the master bedroom, and they're saying, there is no fire. We refuse to believe there's a fire. Okay? Even though you can see the fire. There are some, who are saying, well, there's a fire, but let's pour some gasoline on it. That's what's going to help the fire. And you're sitting there saying, what is wrong with people? Why are they behaving like this? Because they're so used to throwing things in that catch fire. I've been watching this on the planet for now 16, 18 years. And in 2009, the Stockholm Resilience Center said there were 3 fire alarms that are blaring on the planet. One had to do with biodiversity. One had to do with climate change, and climate change was still in the orange zone, okay, if you look. And then the other one had to do with the nitrogen loading. So there were 3 fires that they said in 2009. 3 fire alarms blaring. And there is one big fire on the planet. And then in 2015, they said there are now 4 boundaries crossed, which means there are 4 fire alarms that are blaring. Climate change is still orange, see? And then they included land system change as another fire alarm that's blaring. And then biodiversity loss in nitrogen and phosphorus loading. And by 2023, now they are saying there are 6 fire alarms blaring on the planet. Okay? 6 fire alarms blaring on the planet. And this year, the Stockholm Resilience Center announced that the 7th one is also blaring. So there are 7 fire alarms that are blaring on the planet. But if you look at how the mainstream media and mainstream scientists deal with this problem, they are narrowly focused just on the climate change. They narrowly focused just on climate change, and within climate change, they're narrowly focused on fossil fuels. Because they're trying to make money off of this problem. Yeah, and that's the major issue. So there is this huge cow in the room, because if you look at all the other fire alarms that are blaring, the leading cause is animal agriculture. And everybody knows that. All the scientists know that the leading cause is animal agriculture for all the other issues. But the media only focuses on climate change and only on the fossil fuel component of climate change. So it's as if you got this rap sheet, right? Where fossil fuels is a small, tiny rap sheet. And animal agriculture has this huge rap sheet and no one's looking at it. But we are looking at it. As a systems engineer, I have to look at every aspect of this problem before we address the solution. How do you solve the problem? You have to look at the entire thing. And when you look at it, you clearly realize that animal agriculture has to be dealt with first. So this is why I'm absolutely convinced that there is going to be a vegan world by 2026, because at some point we are going to discover that there is a fire, that we have been pretending there is no fire, but there is a fire, and that we have to put out the fire. And the only way to put out the fire is for the world to go vegan. Okay? And the reason is because of how we use land on the planet. Land has 3 times as much carbon as the entire atmosphere. And on land, we have cut half the trees on the planet. Okay? Half the trees on the planet, mainly for raising animals for food. So if you look at how we use our land on the planet, and this is data straight from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, just 1% is built land. This is cities, railroads, highways, and so on. 11% is unused land, deserts, mountains, etc. 22% is monocultured forests for timber and paper and things like that. Only 9% is original forests. 37% is grazing land for animals. And on that grazing land, we have cut almost all the trees that used to be there. Okay? And then 12% is cropland. And half of the crops are being used to feed animals, which means animal agriculture is taking up 43% of the land area of the planet, the ice-free land area of the planet. And it's only providing us with 12% of the food we eat in terms of dry weight. So if you think of, go to a supermarket and you start weighing all the food that's out there, how much of the food will be plant-based and how much of that will be animal-based? You'll realize that animal-based is very, very small compared to the plant-based. Okay? So that's why if you look at the weight, only 12% comes from animal sources, for which you're using 43% of the land area of the planet. And 85% of the food we eat is already plant-based. So it's already an almost vegan world in that sense, okay, if you look at just food. And then the remaining 3% comes from the ocean, for which we have been destroying the entire ocean. We are actually bottom trawling an area the size of South America every year to catch the last remaining fish in the ocean. So this is why if the world goes vegan and we turn that 85% into 100%, which is only an extra 15% that we need to add to the plants that we are already eating, then you can release 40% of the land area of the planet back to nature and the entire ocean back to nature. And when you release land back to nature and the ocean back to nature, nature heals automatically. Yeah? And we may have to help her a bit. We may have to clean up our mess. But healing, nature is a self-healing system. So nature will heal when we start doing the right thing. So this is why the vegan rewilding solution, vegan rewilding solution will completely reverse climate change. So this solution is where the world goes vegan and we rewild the land on which animal agriculture used to be there. Yeah. The camera? Yeah. So the vegan rewilding solution will completely reverse climate change. And not only will it reverse climate change, it will also address all 6 of these fire alarms. All 6 of them. Even the 7th one that they said is ocean acidification. Even that 7th one will be reversed if the world goes vegan and we rewild the planet. Okay. So the smallest violation or the smallest alarm is the freshwater change. And when we return 40% of the land back to nature, the water cycle will heal. Next is land system change. And land system, again, if you return 40% of the land back to nature, that will go from red to green. The next is climate change. And I already told you that climate change will be reversed if the world goes vegan and we rewild the planet. And if anyone doubts that, I said, try it out. Let's see. I guarantee to you it will happen because I'm basing it on data. And then nitrogen and phosphorus loading, half the crops, that comes from all the crops we grow. We're growing them industrially with fertilizers. And half the crops are being fed to animals. This is why when we go vegan, that will go from red towards green. I don't know if it will be entirely green, but it will go towards green. Next is chemical pollution or novel entities. And those novel entities, we are pouring about 220 billion tons of toxic chemicals into the environment every year. That's about 30 tons per person per year. Okay. And those toxic chemicals are working their way up the food chain. So they are highly concentrated in animal foods. So animal foods have 10 to 100 times the toxic pollution as plant foods. So when the world goes vegan, we start eating plants. So we get only 1% to 10% of the of the toxic pollution that people get from eating animal foods. And simultaneously, we return the trees on the land, and those trees start sucking up the chemical pollution and storing it in their trunks. So trees are so amazing because they take water and they filter the water. And they store that chemical pollution in their trunks. So when we go vegan and we rewild the planet, it'll address both our health and the planet's health for chemical pollution. And finally, the worst violation is biodiversity loss. And this is the reason why I made the pinky promise to my granddaughter, because I don't want all wild animals to die off. Okay. And we are on track to wipe out almost all of them by 2026. That's the calculation I made 10 years ago. Today, it looks like it's around 91%. It's still not comforting to me that we are killing more and more wild animals every year, and we are saying, oh, there's still some left. So why don't we continue? This is not the way we should deal with a fire. We have to address this as quickly as possible. So when you take into account, when you do the accounting properly, like an engineer would, you will realize that animal agriculture is the leading cause of climate change and of all the other fire alarms that are going on the planet. And we wrote a position paper stating that it's at least 87% of greenhouse gas emissions. And that 87% comes from 31% from direct emissions and 56% from carbon opportunity costs. And opportunity costs, as an engineer, I have to count it. Okay? If you tell me you shouldn't count opportunity costs, I say, you're telling me something against my profession. I will refuse to write any paper that doesn't count opportunity costs. Okay? So when you do that, it's 87%. And recently, Jared Bishop published a paper showing that animal agriculture is actually not 31%, it's more like 52%. So then when you add the opportunity cost, it's over 100%. In fact, based on the 6th assessment report, my assessment is now 118%. So you ask, how can animal agriculture be more than 100%? It means that if the world goes vegan and we let the forest rewild on the land that we're using for animal agriculture, you will see the CO2 level in the atmosphere come down year by year, even though you're driving around in cars and going around, heating up your homes like you used to. That's the power of trees to reverse climate change. Okay. Now, why is this not common knowledge? It is common knowledge among scientists. They know this, and they're pretending not to know it because it's their job. They will lose their jobs if they say these things out. So Gus Speth said, I used to think the top environmental problems are biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, and climate change. I thought that with 30 years of good science, we could address these problems. But I was wrong. The top environmental problems are selfishness, greed, and apathy. And to deal with those, we need a spiritual and cultural transformation. And we scientists don't know how to do that. Well, that's what veganism is. It is a spiritual and cultural transformation. And that's the transformation that we are doing from the grassroots now. Okay? And in the climate heating phase, we have created a system that rewards selfishness, greed, and apathy. So when you have a system that rewards selfishness, greed, and apathy, and we call it capitalism, you shouldn't be shocked that people are selfish, greedy, and apathetic, because that's what you're rewarding. Okay, so we have a system that's designed for heating the climate, and we have done something amazing. We have actually ended the 5th major ice age in the Earth's history by heating the climate. But to do that, we had to reward selfishness, greed, and apathy. So we had to go from a climate healing species to a climate heating species, because we are all born climate healing species. So what is the climate healing phase? Here you'll do the opposite. From selfishness, greed, and apathy, it's selflessness, generosity, and activism. Okay? And here, instead of man being above woman, above animals, which is what the ego phase is, here it's man and woman are serving the animals. That's what I call the seva phase. So we are restoring the ecosystems of the planet. And then once we are done with the climate healing phase, we get to the climate harmonizing phase. We are going to keep the life support systems of the planet within the green zone forever. And to do that, you'll be in the climate harmonizing phase. And that's what is called the eco phase, where, we will all be Buddhas. Let's aim for that. Okay? Enlightenment, awareness, and acceptance. This is what we will be doing mostly. We don't have to do much. So, but this requires a transformation. It's a transformation spiritually and culturally. A transformation from a current system that's based on deception and domination and death, disease, and destruction. Deception and domination. If you can con people and get money out of them, you'll be rewarded. You'll be lauded by people, especially if it's within the rules, right? And that's what everybody's trying to do, figuring out how to get money out of people. So deception is fundamental to the system that we are in. And I show a picture of the satellite picture of the Amazon in the background. And in that, you see how we deforest the Amazon. We don't really cut all the trees. We just leave clumps of trees behind. Because the UN has a rule saying that any 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer grid with 10% tree cover is still a forest grid. So we are pretending the Amazon is still there. Okay? In official circles. They're all pretending the Amazon did not get destroyed. It's not there. This is not counted in the IPCC's forest, the land use map. They're claiming that this is still part of the Amazon, the 9%. Well, that's a deception. The animals are not there. They're dead, right? If you keep cutting like this. So we have to go from deception and domination to honesty and humility. We have to realize that we are here to serve the animals, not the other way around. We're not here to boss them around. And we have to be honest. No engineering project ever works with dishonesty. And I've been running engineering projects for like 40 years now. And the first thing I tell my team is that, please tell me the truth. Don't hide things from me. Because if you tell me that you made a mistake, we'll fix it. But if you pretend you didn't make a mistake, then once I find out, I'm going to be really mad. So deception is never a way to create a system that keeps us within the bounds of the planet. And Steve Kaufman said something very important. He said, meaningful reforms are not possible until goals change. If the goal of the system is to keep growing the economy, if the goal of the system is for everyone to go and grab as much as they can from the planet for themselves, then you will always have a climate heating civilization. You will never change. Okay. So, and if you look at what do you want a vegan world to be? I want a vegan world to have no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education. These are all the goals that the UN has identified as their sustainable development goals. Okay? These are all great goals. But then they had goal number 8, which is economic growth. And this is where the problem comes, because everybody is trying to meet the other goals by just growing the economy. And this is backwards. Think about it. If you meet the other goals, like no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, do you really care that the economy is growing? So why did they put that in there? Because that's the deception they're running. It's a big con game that they're running. This is why we're not going to any more COPs until it's 100% vegan. Okay? And instead of goal number 8, economic growth, we have added goal number 18, which is zero animal exploitation. Because if you meet that goal, it's very easy to meet the other goals. So let's put a goal in there that everyone can rally behind. And to do zero animal exploitation, you have to go back to being the child that you were. This is what my granddaughter taught me. They are born climate healers. We are all born climate healers, and we are educated into becoming climate heaters. Now, here's an illustration of why economic growth you will never be able to meet goal number 4, good health and well-being, or goal number 3, good health and well-being, as long as you're focused on economic growth. Because the American College of Lifestyle Medicine pointed out that 90% of the healthcare economy depends upon these 15 chronic diseases that are caused by these 8 risky behaviors. Okay? Poor diet is number 1, then physical inactivity, smoking is number 3, lack of health screening, poor stress management, insufficient sleep, poor standard of care, and excessive alcohol consumption. So in a system that's trying to grow the economy, these 8 risky behaviors are being encouraged to every one of us. So our children are being sort of, deceived into doing these things. They are being given bad food at school because they want them to get sick as they grow older. And it's not anyone's fault, but that's the system that we are in. Okay? That's why it's a systemic issue. For instance, we tell our children to eat meat to get protein, even though they can see that a cow is eating just grass and growing so big. An elephant is eating just leaves and getting so big. So where did the elephant and the cow get their protein from? From the grass and the leaves. So all plant foods have all amino acids. This is a paper by Chris Gardner, and he showed how all 20 amino acids are found in every plant food. So you don't have to go eat meat to get your protein. That was a lie that they taught us in school, and that lie is the foundation of the climate heating civilization. And I'll show you why that lie is the foundation. Okay? The other lie is that you need to drink milk from the mammary secretions of a cow in order to get calcium. Where did the cow get its calcium from? From the grass. Anything green has calcium. In fact, all foods have calcium. Okay? And not only that, most people are lactose intolerant. They cannot even digest this thing. Most people of color are lactose intolerant. And yet, milk is being forced on children in schools. Because that's the system we have. It says, we don't care if you're going to get sick. You're going to drink this because I'm going to make money off of you. That is what's going on. That's the domination that's going on. In the past, we used to do these things openly. Like in India, the colonial rulers, they deliberately engineered 25 famines between 1857 and 1947. And over 60 million Indians died of famine. And the reason, of starvation. Okay? And the reason they were doing that is that by starving people, They were convincing them to go out and work in other lands. So people are getting on ships, going to Fiji, going to West Indies, saying, get me something so I can eat. I'll do any job you want. So this was a starvation model for labor recruitment. That's what they were using. Guess what? The same starvation model is still being used today for labor recruitment. 800 million people are hungry today on planet Earth. And 8 million people are dying every year of hunger-related causes. Every year. Because it's the same model. But instead of making it openly through famines, now we are doing it through convincing people that protein is only found in meat. Everybody thinks protein is only found in meat. They're all trying to eat more and more meat. And then you notice how much land you need to grow just that 12% of the food. So you'll be using more and more land to get more and more, get the protein at the top. And then people at the bottom are going to be starving. That's the system we have. Okay? It's a system that's based on this lie. The protein myth is the foundational lie. And the calcium myth is the foundational lie. And especially calcium, I point out that milk, it's only when you consume milk that you get cheap beef. Because when you consume milk, you're paying for the cow on a daily basis. And then when the cow is finished, she's all paid for. So she gets chopped up into hamburgers. With prison labor, by the way. Okay, so this is how you get cheap hamburgers. And so the way to address this, and this is fundamental to all of us, is for all of us to get healthy. You have to put on your own oxygen mask first before helping others. This is what I call the self-transformation. So you do the exact opposite of the 8 risky behaviors, you get the 8 healing habits. From poor diet to healthy vegan diet. From physical inactivity to regular exercise and yoga asanas. From smoking to conscious breathing or pranayama. From lack of health screening to regular health routines. I say that, good has to be cultivated. And health has to be habituated. So good health has to be both cultivated and habituated. Cultivated meaning, look at the good in people. And then you enhance the good in them. If you keep looking at the evil in people, you'll enhance the evil in them. So please enhance the good in people and then help them come in, create these healthy habits. From poor stress management to meditation and awareness. From insufficient sleep to adequate rest and sleep, and which you will get if you do the first 5. And then poor standard of care to a sense of purpose, and from excessive alcohol consumption to contact with nature. So this is the self-transformation that we need to do. And the civilizational transformation, the first thing we need to do is to educate people. We have to go out there and teach people, tell people about this. This transformation that's happening, that we are going to have a vegan world by 2026. Just own it, please. Tell them this is it. It's going to happen. Right? And then adopt the 8 healing actions. So get yourself healthy. Start eating healthy food. Do these regular exercises and so on. Third is set the goal straight. So we have to drop the goal number 8 and tell the UN, look, we know what you're trying to do. You're trying to con us. We are seeing through it. Right? So stop that. And then we have to create a constitution for a vegan world and create vegan donut economics so we stay within the bounds of the planet and support rewilding efforts and finally come home to your true vegan nature. So it's a spiritual thing. And so far, we have been ramping up slowly. Okay, so we started off with books and then documentaries. And documentaries reach a number of people. Books reach a very few number of people. Documentaries reach more people. And now we are focusing more on movies and festivals. So we are planning a festival in the UK where we're going to try and get 1,000 vegan dishes available to people so they can come and taste it. We're renting a stadium to do this. And we're going to try and get celebrities to come. And then people who are vegan walk around saying, ask me anything. So this way, anyone has any questions they can address. And when you offer 1,000 vegan dishes to taste, people will come. So that's the idea. And we are doing like a fictional movie with vegan characters, a Bollywood movie based on the Pinky Promise book. So we're already working on that. So I think this way we can reach a lot more people and we can grow this movement very, very fast. Because right now the key for us is to increase the urgency. Tell people that there's an urgent fire on the planet that we have to put out. And there is one thing that we all have. We all have a fire hose called veganism. We all own that fire hose. Don't expect the government to do that. We have it and we have to use it. Then we have to have training for activists. The books and documentaries are training for activists. And then we are working on courses that we have more formal certification process. So people can just take a course on Climate Healers 101. So it understands the story of climate healers. And then food system transformation. How do you transform the food system? So where we will be emphasizing food healers. That's part of the workshop we are going to be doing today. And self-transformation 101. How do you get healthy yourself? So, and this is inevitable, folks. So we had a debate about this at the Oxford Union last year, and we won the debate, which means that the students are telling us, future leaders of the planet are telling us that the world is going to be vegan. Okay? They know it's going to be vegan. So if they know it's going to be vegan, why are we waiting? Let's do it right away. So I see this as the hero's marathon journey. Our ancestors have been working on this for 50,000 years. They've heated up the planet for 50,000 years. And they have prevented the Earth from ever going back to another ice age again. So they've done an amazing job of heating up the planet and ending the fifth major ice age. So imagine this, 33.9 million years of an ice age is over. So we can celebrate that now, right? But to enjoy the work that our ancestors did, we have to go vegan. So this is like making a U-turn. Okay? It's like we are making a U-turn at the end. It's only 14 feet to the finish line. You have to make a U-turn. And then there's a clown standing outside trying to convince us to come in and eat his McDonald's. So please ignore that clown. He's going to kill you if you go there. Okay? So just let's do the U-turn and get to a vegan world as quickly as possible. Thank you.
All right. How about another hand for Dr. Rao? All right. Thank you. Such a great talk. I never, ever get tired of hearing you speak. And I'm wondering, is there anybody out there online that has any questions for Dr. Rao? Any questions coming up?
There was a question from Facebook. How do you get your family members? Family members are the toughest to convince.
How do you get your family members to go vegan? They're the toughest to convince. Dr. Rao.
Yeah, great question. I say don't focus on those who are the toughest to change. Focus on those who are the easiest to change first. Focus on those who are on the fence, who are willing to listen to you. Your family members have a lot of history with you. And so they're remembering you the way you were before you transformed. And this is why it's hard for them to understand, But it's okay. So I say that every one of us, we have our own little niche where we can go and make changes. So this is part of the workshop we are doing later on. We talk about one more thing you can do. So you keep picking one more thing that you can do that will improve the planet for you. And keep at it. And don't worry about those who are too far away from you.
Great answer. I love that. How about a hand for Dr. Rao? Any other questions out there?
Question from the Zoom chat. Will transitional foods developed with precision fermentation be a positive influence?
Will transitional foods I'm sorry?
Developed with precision fermentation be a positive influence?
Will transition foods developed with Can you come ask the question?
Precision, yeah.
You know what the question
Yeah.
is? Okay, go ahead.
So the question is, will transitional foods developed with precision fermentation be a positive influence? Yes, it is. Anything that will get people off animal foods and help them, it's like is methadone necessary for heroin addiction?
Right.
Yeah, some people it is necessary. So we have to give people every possible tool available that they can make the transition. Everyone needs to know that they're all taking the step towards a vegan world. We're all going to go vegan, okay? Because ultimately, it is the mindset that needs to change. It's not what you're putting in your mouth. The mindset that animals are here with us, not for us to exploit. Okay? We have to treat them as fellow passengers on spaceship Earth. Only then will we create a system that's within the boundaries of the planet.
We have another question for Dr. Rao. How can we communicate the urgency of Vegan World 2026 without sounding like an alarmist?
Repeat the question.
How can we convey the urgency of Vegan World 2026 without sounding like an alarmist? You are a realist when you say that. You're a realist when you say that the planet is on fire, because it is on fire. This is not an alarm. The alarm is already blaring. Nature is already sending us the alarms. Nature is already taking all the cars and piling them on top of each other in Valencia, Spain. Nature is already creating wildfires all over California and burning down houses. Nature is already bringing hurricanes and killing people off in North Carolina. So the alarms are already going on. So you're not the alarmist. You're just saying there's an alarm, that there's a fire on the planet, which is the truth. Because this year, the European Commission has said that we are going to be hitting 1.5 degrees over pre-industrial era. Okay. So last year we were at 1.43 degrees. So it's getting hotter and hotter. Do we not see the trend? What are we waiting for? Okay. So I say that you're not an alarmist when you tell people that the world has to go vegan by 2026. You're being a realist. You're actually being someone who's compassionate. You're telling them, let us save ourselves. Let us save the world. Let us save life on Earth. That's all you're doing when you tell them that. You're not being an alarmist.
Thank you. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I have a question here because I have so many, real conservative, Christian-based friends, family, and, not that that's a, bad thing, but so many of them don't believe in climate change, as you brought out a while ago. Even a lot of vegan friends that I have think climate change is a hoax.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How? I look at this and I think about it and I'm just flabbergasted that people can't see and feel the urgency, like you said, of this problem. So I think if I could ask you one thing, it would be how to even address that deeper so that people can see through their own ignorance.
No, it's not their ignorance.
What is it?
No, they're not being ignorant. They're actually seeing through the deception that's going on.
Deception.
The deception that's going on is the system is saying, focus just on climate change. And within climate change, focus just on fossil fuels. That's what the system is saying, right? I showed you the media focus. And people are saying, oh, that's a lie. And they're right. It's a lie. We are trying, the system is trying to lie to them in order to make money. Who's the richest man in the world today? The man who's making electric cars. So they succeeded in deceiving people, convincing them that if you just buy electric cars, you can solve the problem. And you're discovering that it's getting worse and worse and worse, and you're really not solving the problem. So naturally, people are saying, hey, your story is wrong. And they're right. So if you look at the entire picture, you'll see 7 alarms going on, not just climate change. Climate change is only the 4th worst alarm. It's not even the biggest alarm. There are 7 alarms going around on the planet, and all 7 of them can be reversed if the world goes vegan. Okay. So that's what we need to convey to them.
Let me see. We got a question here.
I want to add to this question. And the same people, they also say climate change is because of weather manipulation. What would you say to those people?
Oh,
Please repeat the question.
weather manipulation. What would you say to the people that believe weather manipulation is the reason?
Is it weather manipulation or human impact on the weather? We are having an impact on the weather. Okay. Everything you do, every one of us is having an impact on the weather. We're either heating the climate or cooling the climate with our actions. You say, so what is this weather manipulation that you have to go look for? You're already doing it. So that's my response to that. Yes, you're right. We are manipulating the weather. Each one of us is doing it by buying things that we don't need, by unnecessarily driving around when we don't have to, or flying around when we don't have to. So these are the things that causes it. Okay. So I say that, and eating meat, of course, is the major reason.
Mm-hmm.
Eating meat and dairy when you don't have to, especially when it's causing you to get sick. So to me, it's a non-issue, the weather manipulation question. They don't have to do anything big. We're already doing it.
I have a question.
Question.
Okay, the Farm Bill is being negotiated right now. The Farm Bill will determine what kind of subsidies the U.S. government gives to animal agriculture for the next 5 years. Essentially, whereas meat is creating the climate crisis, whereas the government is funding meat, wherefore the government can determine whether or not our planet survives. If they cut those subsidies, we could eliminate animal agriculture. And there is a move now to reduce government waste. How can we get this move by an incoming administration to reduce government waste to address the massive government subsidies for animal agriculture and eliminate them?
So to sum that up.
Yeah.
Oh, they did? Okay, here you go.
Yeah. We have to keep pressuring the government to be sensible. It's absolutely, there is no common sense in the policies right now. They're supporting policies that make our children sick. They're supporting policies that make all of us sick. So they're actually doing a disease management system. That's all they're doing. They're making us all disease and then trying to manage it.
Yep.
And, I refuse to be colonized anymore.
Yeah.
We have to free ourselves from the government's manipulations, regardless of what the government does. So I say the government is going to, if the government continues to institute such policies, you have to tell them, look, we know what you're trying to do. We see through you and we're not falling for it anymore. And we have to keep telling them, do the right thing. We know what the right thing is. Make health the priority for the government. You are our government, not the corporation's government. It's the government of the people, by the people, for the people, right? But it's not that way now. It's the government of the corporations, by the corporations, for the corporations. Because the corporations have been termed as people. And they are the most powerful people on the planet because they have a lot of money. So we have a government that listens to whoever has the most money. That's the system we have. So this is why I say it's a complete system transformation that's going to happen. But to get to that system transformation, we have to engineer it from the bottom. We have to create a groundswell of support among grassroots people.
And one thing that I see happening ever since I've known you is that your message doesn't change. I can listen to you speak and it just never changes. And I'm so grateful that you are pioneering this Vegan World 2026 movement, because we need a consistent voice. And it's imperative that we all get behind this voice and begin to do whatever we can to buoy up the Vegan World by 2026 movement. Y'all do that today. Thank you, Dr. Washington.
Thank you.